Okay, and welcome to another episode of Medical Money, the podcast where we help healthcare professionals like you learn how to protect your money, build wealth, and avoid being hustled by Wall Street and Main Street. I'm Kirk Roberts. I'm an ER nurse, financial educator, and licensed financial representative.
And I'm Ben Chandia, firefighter, advanced CMT, and also a licensed financial representative. Guys, today we got a wild episode to go over, okay? A couple things, right? Obviously, new area, okay? We got a new studio. Super excited about that. Getting a lot of growth and excited for you guys to see the content that's going to come out. Thank you for sharing the show, getting your friends involved. We're super grateful for you guys. But guys, today we're going to talk about something that's marketed in the financial world as kind of the unicorn, the magical unicorn that TikTok and Instagram and everyone's talking about, okay? Index Universal Life Insurance, okay? Or IULs for short, okay? Now, a lot of people will say, it's like a Roth IRA with life insurance attached, but is it really? Is it really what they make it out to see? Okay, we're going to go down and dive into a lot of this today. You guys are going to be blown away.
And also, once again, reach out to Dwayne. Thank you so much for actually posing this question and answering on our medicalmoneycash@gmail.com. Thank you so much. So let's drill down on this and think of what is an IUL. So an IUL is a type of permanent life insurance that includes a cash value component. Now, remember, we've been talking in the previous episodes about cash value policies. This is a type of cash value policy. So that cash value that we talked about is actually the growth is based on or tied to a formula that is tied to the stock market, like the S&P 500. And here's the twist. You're not actually in the market. Okay, so you're just tracking it. So they also put in something called caps and participation rates on your returns. So for example, if the S&P 500 returns like say 12% and your cap is 9%, you get how much? 9%. And if the stock market loses 10%, you get 0%. So that's the so-called downside.
Yeah. And Ray, it's often pitched like you're getting the best of both worlds, okay? Which, I mean, of course everyone wants to get the most bang for their buck, right? I'm right there with you on that, okay? But it really, you have all this upside potential with that downside protection. Guys, don't be fooled, okay? Zero isn't free. It never is, okay? The costs keep coming out even when the market doesn't grow, the cash value gets eaten alive through fees, through charges, through all these other things. In a roundabout way, the policy will actually eventually cannibalize itself, okay, through the fees and charges, things like that. So you're ultimately left with nothing.
$0, guys. Does that make sense or does that make dollars? So let's talk about the marketing. It's really slick, guys. And it's actually sold using emotional manipulation. And the pitch sounds something like this. Would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? Or why risk your money in the market when you could get safe, tax-free growth? Or it might be, you can use this to retire early, buy a car, pay for college, and still have a death benefit. Or you can be your own bank, infinite banking, right? And then here's also the one that gets me the most. This is what the wealthy do. By the way, that's a lie, guys, because wealthy people don't buy IULs. They buy assets. Remember how we talked about assets? Assets are anything that put money into your pocket. They're not buying that. We're talking real estate, businesses, stocks, investments, all that. They use term life insurance only for protection.
Right. And so what they're really doing is selling a dream, okay? Which, don't get me wrong, I'm all about dreaming and, positive affirmations, whatever you want to call it. But guys, when rubber meets the road, a dream isn't going to put money into your pocket, okay? It'll get the juices flowing, but ultimately we want to stay focused on buying those assets, okay? And staying away from different liabilities like this, okay? So really what they're giving you isn't a dream. It's just this complicated insurance project or product, whatever they're trying to put together, okay? There's zero guarantees. On the growth that they're hyping, they throw around words like tax-free retirement and market-linked gains, legacy planning, but they never really go through and explain the fine print. It's never projected that way.
100%. So guys, let's look under the hood, right? Let's take a look at what this is. So let's talk about the things they don't talk about during the sales pitch. Number one, fees. fees and more fees. All right. You've got cost of insurance, otherwise known as COI, administrative fees, rider fees, commissions, and these can be over 90% of your first year's premium. Remember how we talked about seeing KY Bank? How we talked about, hey, for the first 1 to 4 years, you receive zero money inside your account. What? Right? So that money is not working for you. So that's the first one, fees. Second one, cost of insurance goes up every year. As you age, the cost of keeping that death benefit actually rises. And so it might be at the time of 35, but wait, by the time you're 55, by the time you're 65, you'll be shoveling more and more money into that policy just to keep the policy alive and not to lapse. Next thing, capped gains and uncapped risk. So what does that mean by that? Now, they cap your upside. That usually means 8 to 10%. So cap, right? It's going here. But they also have a participation rate. So let's suppose if the market gains 10% and your cap is 10%, but you have a participation rate of 80%. That means you're only getting 8%. Whoa, right? Wait a minute. So meanwhile, inflation is laughing you in your face and you're only getting that 8% when you were promised, 10%. So also, policy lapse. It's a tax bomb. So and I bring this up with people all the time. Two sure things in life, death and taxes, right? But any money that's earned will be taxed. Welcome to the United States, right? It is what it is. But if you borrow money out of your policy and it lapses later because maybe the cash value that was in it was drained by all the fees and all that, you're now stuck with a tax bill. Well, they didn't talk about that during the sales pitch. No, they didn't, guys. Of course not. Because those loans are accruing interest as well. And you thought it was tax-free? No. Loans aren't free, guys. Every tax-free income dollar comes out as a loan, okay? So that loan accrues interest. And if your policy doesn't perform well to cover the growing cost of the loan balance, your policy then can collapse.
It's crazy. I mean, and we've talked about this before, guys. In what case, what scenario would it ever make sense to borrow your own money and pay someone else interest on your money? You've worked your butt off. You put in all the overtime, the side hustles, whatever the case is, you put in all that work and you're going to pay interest to someone else on that hard work. That really doesn't make any dollars.
Well,
okay?
it just doesn't
make sense either.
And it doesn't just benefit the company. Who else does it benefit?
It benefits the agent. Okay, guys, and we'll dive into this, but let's just say, the agent makes this fat commission. I talked to Kirk, this is crazy. I talked to one of the guys I network with. He used to work for a life insurance company. He sold these type of policies. And I just sat down and asked with him, like, hey, what is the commission on a lot of these policies? Like with you as the agent, what kind of commission do you make? Get this, the first 2 years, 87% commission on a policy, right? Which if you're an agent selling that, hey, you're rolling in the dough, okay? Me as a consumer though, I'm paying your commission for 2 years before I see any of that money? No, I'm not about that.
Seen KY Bank, guys. This is how it works.
It's crazy. So you think that they're really recommending this because it's good for you. Okay. No, they're just concerned about their paycheck. The crazy thing though is that a lot of them, they don't even know how this stuff works. They're just doing what they're trained to do. They're just telling the consumer what they're trained to do. But so guys, if someone's pitching you an IUL, just ask them a couple questions. Okay, can you show me the guaranteed values versus the illustrated ones? Okay, they're going to show you the illustrated ones. You want to see the guaranteed values, right, and how that breaks down. Also, how much are the internal fees, okay, or the COI over time, okay? What are those fees going to look like over a span of time? Now, if they dodge these questions, go beat around the bush, whatever, run, okay? Run away. They're just selling you.
Right. And guys, we've been talking about getting your financial house in order, right? So you should have your emergency set up. Have you maxed out your Roth IRA or your 401k? And we'll be definitely going over investments here as part of your financial house. Do you have no interest, high debt anymore? So maybe if you're looking for a low interest, legacy focused tool with full awareness of the cost, well then maybe an IUL would work for a small piece of your financial pipe. Maybe. Right.
Yeah. And so, it's not for most people. Okay. Most people, they're getting pitched this product when they haven't even built a foundation. They're trying to put on a roof and they haven't even laid down a foundation, let alone a wall or two to have some kind of structure. It just doesn't make sense. So just think of putting if I were doing a remodel of my bathroom. Okay, my wife wants me to do a remodel of my bathroom, actually the kitchen and then probably the bathroom, but. Say I'm going to go do this remodel, right, in my bathroom. And my wife, she wants this nice jacuzzi, a marble bathtub or whatever. And I put it in and I forget the plumbing. I forget to plumb the house. I forget to get water to the tub. What worth is that fancy bathtub going to be worth?
$0, guys.
Nothing, right? It's worthless. It's pointless, okay?
So if you want to build wealth, you need to start with, as we've talked about before, protect your income. Term life insurance policy. Cheap, simple, effective. You need to be maximizing your Roth IRA and 401k for a tax advantage growth and get some brokerage accounts. And these are for long-term investment flexibility.
Yeah, and guys, these are very straightforward and cost-effective ways that you can put your money into buying these assets, okay? You don't have to dump thousands of dollars, okay? You can dollar cost average, which we're going to talk about later on. You can do different things that make it more manageable for you to put money into your pocket and not into someone else's commission.
Guys, don't get seduced by this flashy illustrations or the smooth talking agents. Indexed universal life policy is not a miracle. Like he said, it's not a financial unicorn. It's a mousetrap with a stake on top of it, guys.
Yeah. So, guys, if you're not careful, that stake that's going to be a thousands of dollars stake,
hundreds of thousands of dollars,
very expensive. Okay, not worth it, right? It's not worth that. Now, if you've been pitched an IUL or you've already bought one, let us help you. Okay, send us any questions, or if you want us to look at that, we'd be more than happy to do a free once over on what kind of policy you have and see if it makes sense for you. Okay, see if it makes sense or see if it makes you dollars.
Guys, just a quick recap. IULs have these things. Fees, fees, fees. You have to remember that, guys. And you have to make sure you understand what are the guaranteed rates versus the illustrated rates. Guys, you also need to understand that the cost of insurance goes up every single year. That's because you get older. It is what it is. Your policy loans, like we talked about before, you actually are taking out a policy loan. It can become a tax burden. It actually become a tax bill to you from Uncle Sam saying, pay us the money, right? And as we mentioned before, when you're actually paying back the loan, you're paying back a loan from yourself, right? So your cash value doesn't accrue for 1 to 4 years at all. You have $0. And if you take out a loan, you're paying yourself back at a high rate. And if your policy lapses, you get the tax bill.
The other thing too, Kirk, we almost forgot to mention is that if, say, heaven forbid, you die, okay, that's kind of the reason why we got a life insurance policy. You die, remember, the company gives you 2 choices, okay? You can either have whatever's left in the death benefit. Now, if you've taken a loan or things like that, that's going to minimize what that loan is or what that death benefit's available to you, okay? So you either can have that or you can have whatever the cash value has been built up to. You can't have both.
So if I have a $200,000 death benefit and I took out a $50,000 loan and I pass away,
you get $150,000.
I get $150,000, guys, and the company keeps the rest of the cash value. What? All right, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast here. This was just a quick overview on IULs. If you want to reach out to us, we'd be more than happy to go in more detail with you. So don't miss another episode. Share this podcast with other individuals. You may know a nurse, doctor, EMT, healthcare professional, whichever it might be, that may be great at saving lives, maybe not so great at saving their finances. So,
And guys, please remember to email us at medicalmoneycash@gmail.com. Be more than happy to look over your questions, look over your policies, make sure that this is a good fit for you.
So guys, we're always saying this. Does this make sense? Or does this make dollars? We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
I'm looking for a man in finance. The trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Finance. Trust fund. 6'5". I'm looking for a man in finance. The trust fund.